everyone. This is Michelle Strummel, and I'm a Shape Warrior. And tonight I will serve as the moderator for tonight's presentation, which is Shape, the Brain, and Willpower with Dr. Todd and Linda Frisch, the founders of the Shape Reclaimed program. And so with that, we're going to get started with the presentation. So you can take it away.
All right, perfect.
We're not taking it away.
We aren't taking it away. Hang on one second here. I got it going.
Now we're
okay, that is good. Thank you.
I want to thank Michelle for offering to do this. This is above and beyond, so that's great.
Absolutely, that's wonderful. You know, when I see everybody's posts out there, y'all know that I'm one that jumps in and out of Facebook at least once a day and sometimes twice a day. And I try to follow how people are doing, and I see that some are just knocking it out of the park and using this time of isolation to really, really focus. Quite often people complain that, oh gosh, I don't know when I can start Shape. I don't know when I can do it. I've got this function, that function. And so, whoops, whoops. And so, you know, it's hard. It's hard because we are social people, and we want to, you know, we don't want to miss out on, you know, all the gatherings. And so sometimes it makes it hard to stay focused on Shape. And now is a really great time because we're isolated socially. And while that's the case, and it should make it easy for everybody, we also understand that people are really stressed right now. You know, you're worried about schooling your children. You're worried about, you know, can you get your groceries? Is the paycheck coming in? Are you going to be able to meet your bills? You know, are you going to get infected? So we understand both sides of that equation. And somebody, you know, a lot of people are saying they're really struggling, and we really need some encouragement. So that's what we're going to try to do tonight.
They just need more willpower.
Well, we're going to teach about willpower tonight, but you know, we're right in the trenches with you guys. I think those of you that have attended our warrior events, you know that we're passionate about helping you heal, and we're going to do everything we can to help you. So with that, I'm going to, Todd and I are going to kind of tag team a little bit tonight, but he primarily is going to do the presentation for you. So here we go. Wait.
So we're coming to you live from northern Wisconsin. Is that
are.
As opposed to dead from northern Wisconsin?
Yes, we are live.
So this is actually from a talk that I gave in 2 years ago.
Our symposium 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So willpower is always kind of an interesting thing to me. And I thought, well, you just got to get more of it. But I'm going to explain to you the chemistry behind willpower, and it's pretty fascinating. But before we do that, so I built Shape with two premises. Linda came to me angrily saying, you help everybody, but you're not helping me. And I said, well, there's nothing wrong. And she said, I can't lose weight. And I said, you're fine. I love you. It's great. But that's not how, it's all about how those blue jeans fit.
Okay. But here's the thing. So for a while he was saying, I can't be your doctor. Like I can't be your doctor. You know, I'm your husband. I'm your boss. I can't be your doctor too. And so you know, I did seek help from other people. And I finally went back and said, you gotta help me.
So I don't like diets because the first premise is all diets fail because they do. And I'll explain some of the reasons why that is. The second thought was it can't be metabolic. If it was metabolic, we'd have fixed this a long time ago. Some drug would have come out, some leptin drug would have come out, and all this kind of stuff. So it's a different way to look at this whole weight loss thing. And if it's not metabolic, what is it? I felt it was the brain. And we're going to talk a little bit about that.
So dieting means learning not to eat when you're hungry. This is a quote by Dr. Todd. And that's why we really don't like Shape to be lumped into that dieting category. We're all about eating real, whole, healthy food. And if we can convince you to switch over to eating whole food, I promise you, your health is going to improve, and you will indeed drop that extra weight that you've been lugging around and you've been fighting for a long time.
So let's talk about willpower. There's a number of books on this. One book is called Willpower. Interesting title. But they describe it as self-regulation. But I think the interesting thing is poor self-regulation has been linked to crime, drug, and alcohol abuse and obesity. So it's really our capacity to override emotions. And it's really, really an important thing. So let's talk about a couple of things that can happen. So studies indicate that willpower or self-regulation can be improved with, you can improve your willpower. Think about this: with exercise, low calorie, low carb diet, which is Shape, proper sleep, prayer and meditation, and happiness across the board, marriage, job, and family. I'm intrigued by this word happiness. And, in medicine, is the word happiness ever mentioned as a therapeutic objective? The answer is no. They don't want you to be depressed. They don't want you to be anxious, but nobody says, hey, let's be happy. Or don't worry, be happy.
Is there? we played that song. Don't worry, be happy at the symposium. Remember, because it was all about happiness.
So I think
there's no CPT code for
there's no
being happy. Is there?
Right.
Yeah.
So
we need one.
There's some weirdness going on right now. Then happy is not a word that's going to come to the surface. But let's talk about the pillars of happiness. This is from a book by Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama called The Book of Joy. So the first one is perspective. And isn't that important right now? Our perspective on what's going on is just has to be focused on love and kindness and understanding, because there's just too much weirdness going on.
Yeah, humility. I mean, think about that. For Todd and I, we want to stay as humble as possible. It's just amazing to us that we've got people all across this country that are being healed by a product that Todd developed in a program that we put together 10 years ago. So we try really hard to stay humble. And I think humility is not always an easy thing, but it's really an important thing for happiness.
And humor, laughter, it is a drug without side effects. It's an amazing thing. And if we can just look for something funny. Norman Cousins cured himself of a horrible autoimmune disease simply by laughing. And he wrote a book called something about illness. I don't remember it. Norman Cousins, look it up.
Yeah. And also he recommended watching comedies and stuff and laughing all the time. Acceptance. I have to confess that that's not an easy one for me. I'm a pretty black and white person. And, if I think something's wrong and people are doing it, I really have no tolerance or acceptance. So
which brings me to, I have to use forgiveness a lot.
Right.
Because your inability.
Because I'm black and white.
Yeah, very black and white.
I'm very black
Life's
and white.
99 shades of gray, and Linda is black.
Yes, I am.
So forgiveness, the power of this, I once read a book called Miracle of Forgiveness. It is just beautifully written. And what can happen to your heart when you forgive is just a remarkable thing. I could give a lecture on forgiveness.
We should do that sometime. Gratitude. We have so much to be grateful for. In spite of everything that's going on right now, I will just say I am grateful that I am living in this country. And, for so many reasons, but, we could be in a third world country. And I just wonder sometimes, why did God allow me to be born here? So we're just really grateful. We're grateful for our practitioners.
She could keep me on the straight and narrow.
That's it, because I'm black and white.
There you are. Thank you.
I do.
So we're grateful. We have gratitude that you're all here.
Yeah, we're grateful for everybody that really is putting their trust and faith in this program. We love that.
Compassion is an obvious one. To be compassionate is an entity I think we'd all like to just nurture in our body. But the root word of that is passion. I've told my kids since they were little that life's about three things. It's about passion, it's about the journey, and it's about integrity. And they used to, oh, Dad, come on. I'd grab them and I'd slam them up against the wall and say, tell me what life's about. Dad, tell me what life's about. And you shall pass. Yeah, it's about passion. It's about integrity. It's about the journey. You ask my kids today, what's life about? They'll say it's about passion. It's about the journey. It's about integrity. It's a great thing.
Yes, it is. And generosity.
Help others.
Yep. I don't know, we've lived our life just trying to help other people heal. We feel we've been put on this earth, and that is our mission and God's call on our life. So hopefully if we can really try to incorporate these things into our life, it will raise our happiness quotient.
So let's go back to willpower. So this is a really interesting thing. We actually have a finite amount. Yes.
We have some folks asking if you could put the microphone right beside you. They're having a hard time hearing you.
That's better.
We're just going to do it this way.
All right.
Can you hear me fine?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So there is a finite amount of willpower, and it's depleted when we use it. So we have to build it back up. But the interesting thing, we use the same reservoir of willpower for every little stress that comes in. So we have X amount of willpower, and it can't be more, but it certainly can be less for work, dieting, exercise, family, stress coping, traffic jams, annoying colleagues, family and friends, demanding bosses.
Yes.
Okay. And tempting foods. So let me share a story. Next slide, please, hon.
Mm-hmm.
So they did this experiment. It's called the Radish Experiment. And this was to test the effect that willpower had on the body, and could it even be tested? So they took three groups of math students in college and divided them into three different rooms. And they were given some tasks, and then they were said, just chill here. We'll be back in a minute to the first group. To the second group, they brought in a big bowl of radishes and a big bowl of hot chocolate chip cookies. And they said, have whatever you'd like. To the third group, they brought in a big bowl of chocolate chip cookies and a bowl of radishes and said, you can only eat the radishes. And so obviously there, with the smell of hot chocolate chip cookies, there was a lot of energy expended in not eating that. That was very, very tempting. I saw the video on this, and very few people even ate the radishes, which are great when you roast them. Mm-hmm. So then they came in and they gave each a math test, an equation that they had to solve.
Wait. So after the one group was with chocolate chip cookies.
One group had nothing. One group chocolate chip
nothing.
and
one group had.
Then the last two groups had chocolate chips and radishes, but only one was allowed to eat. Okay. So they gave this test, the same test to all three groups. The group that had nothing, they went about 20 minutes before they realized this was not a solvable problem. They could not solve it. The second group that ate the chocolate chip cookies or the radishes, they took 20 minutes. The group that had to expend willpower lasted 8 minutes, which from a scientific standpoint is statistically phenomenal, that they did not have the capacity in their brain to spend more time because they wasted their willpower on not eating chocolate chip cookies. Now, so what? What's it got to do with shape? Listen to this. Studies show that expressing self-control or willpower depletes glucose in the bloodstream. So if you have less glucose in the bloodstream, what do you think you're going to crave? You're going to crave carbohydrates, chocolate. So that is a profound finding, and they've done many studies on this. And so when your blood sugar plummets, you're going to crave these kind of things, which you don't want to eat on shape. Therefore, you have to expend willpower. Now, so when willpower is depleted, people with low self-esteem become more negative about themselves, where they beat themselves up. Linda sees this. Talk about what you see on
it just breaks my heart when I'm reading through the feed on Facebook. I see people just really, just beating themselves up all the time. They're just so down on themselves, and we know that it's hard to embrace a healthy lifestyle, but you got to give yourself some grace. If you've done nothing for years and years but eat however you wanted to, and you weren't mindful of healthy eating, it's not something that's just going to happen overnight. You're just going to have to be patient with yourself. So yeah.
Stop it.
Self-esteem.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Now,
No, we want you to love
here's
yourself.
the interesting catch-22. In order to not eat, a dieter needs willpower. Remember our first slide about dieting and my quote? In order to have willpower, a dieter must eat. You must have a certain perfect level of glucose, otherwise you deplete your willpower.
Yeah.
So how do you fix this thing? I love the word intention. I had a dream many, many years ago. I've had 3 of these dreams. They were all 2 words. And this dream was explaining the difference between attention and intention. So what you pay attention to is going to drive your intention, which I think is just a profound thing. So, and when I speak to doctors, I explain lots and lots of the chemistry behind this. But the key here is if you have this inflammation intention, which basically means you're going to decide ahead of time when you're going somewhere what you're going to do. So specifically, if they serve chips, I'll not eat any. So when you go there, if you've already made that decision, you don't have to expend willpower. If there's a buffet, I'll choose only lean protein and veggies. So by making these choices in advance, it can have a profound effect on how you handle and how much willpower you're going to have to withstand not eating the things that we know we're not supposed to. And again, it'll preserve your willpower energy.
And so, we talk about all the time, if you know that you're going to be going to a restaurant, you're going out to eat or whatever, go online. Every restaurant has their menu online. Look at it ahead of time. Really be mindful of what you're going to order. So when you're there, you're just not so tempted by everything that looks absolutely
and
wonderful.
Restaurants today will cook anything you want. They
Yes,
they want your business. They want you to come back. So just ask them.
I am the original Sally from
Sally.
The movie. What, Michelle, were you going to say?
Unfortunately, the room, the sound's changed in the room. So sometimes when the mic's pulled away, now we can't hear Linda. I apologize.
Okay.
Oh, now we can hear you very well.
So I was going to say, okay. So sometimes I get this thing that pops up on my screen saying our internet is unstable.
Okay,
we're unstable.
And your husband
is really unstable.
totally.
Okay, so what I was going to say is, I am the original When Harry Met Sally girl from way back when I'm at a restaurant. I really don't ever order just what is on the menu. I always manipulate it, because I figure if I'm going to be paying for it, I want to eat what I want to eat, and I eat really clean. So I would always manipulate menus. So instead of changing what we eat, we should change what we want to eat. So, changing our mindset in choosing healthier. Every single bite we take and drink is a choice. And so we have to really be mindful of what we're doing. So instead of changing what we eat, let's change what we want to eat. And when your taste buds start changing, you're going to start craving really healthy food. I've heard it over and over and over and over in the past 10 years, but actually we heard it for years in practice.
You cannot know the number of people we have served radishes to, and they said, well, these are the most delicious potatoes we've ever eaten. And we just smile and don't tell them the truth.
Tell them. So mindful or mindful? Change from being a mindful to being mindful. So today, earlier, we participated in a national nutrition conference this weekend virtually. And so today I was really busy handling a lot of things that came from what happened over the weekend, and just handling my regular stuff and then preparing for tonight. So my mind was very full. And at about 4:00, I just, put my hiking shoes on, and I went for a 4-mile walk just to clear my full mind. So it looked like that little bubble with all that going on in there. And I just got out in the pines. Really, I got out in the pines and took a lovely walk on the paved bike trail.
And think about what's going into our mind. You look at that television set, they give the number of deaths in the United States, they give the number of cases, all this kind of stuff. These statistics, first of all, they're not accurate, and I'm not going to get into the depth about that. But I'll say one thing. We had a person die in the big city, which is 9,000 people. And there was big headlines that said first corona death in Oneida County. And so reading the article at the bottom of it, this gal was 86 years old in a nursing home in hospice, and she got the coronavirus. So statistically, you kind of wonder about those things.
So how they manipulated that.
So
that
yeah, our mind,
title.
what you want to put in your mind is negotiable. So I would advise you to think about what you want to stare at and being mindful. So there's an interesting concept about goal setting and how it actually can enhance willpower. It's kind of that intention thing. So there are these 4 goals. Soft goals is like, I want to lose some weight. A hard goal is I will choose nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory foods at each meal, and I'll take Shape Reclaimed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Got that in there.
I just took mine as we started.
Okay. And then there's no goals. I wish I could lose some weight. And then this is the worst one, the bad idea goals. I'm going on a vegan diet until I lose 30 pounds and look good in a swimsuit. Tremendously bad idea. So the hard goal will actually enhance your willpower. So there's this book by Eliza Kingsford. Fascinating book. It's just a great read. I don't agree with everything in the book, but it is so good. And she talks about an acronym SMART goal: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. Realistic.
It says realistic right there, but right there it says relevant.
Oh, well, ooh, found a mistake. Okay. So it is, unbeknownst to myself, I actually built Shape with this mentality. I didn't know this at the time. This book came out in 2018. So Shape is very specific. We're asking you to take this very organized approach. It's very measurable. We tell you what to measure in foods and measure your weight and all that kind of stuff. Attainable. We've seen successes. There's a gal named Sue on here that Lynn and I
We love Sue.
we fell in love with, and 200 and I don't know, 200 and some pounds.
Well, from originally, I don't know. Maybe she'll during Q&A. Maybe she'll pop in.
But it's well over 200 pounds. I remember meeting her. She came to Chicago to hear me speak, and was sent by the doctor that was working with her, a Shape practitioner in Lincoln, Nebraska.
She wasn't very successful at that time, and Sue was very frustrated, and she really buckled down after she came.
Yeah, so I remember looking at her, thinking to myself, the best thought I could give was, I'm so glad she's not my patient, because it was a mountain that I didn't know was obtainable. Yeah, and lots of health now she golfs 9 holes and walks another 9 holes for exercise. It's pretty cool. So
she's traveling all over the world.
So what's the point of this? The Shape significance is this. You think we're nuts about these urine analysis, but you have to understand, if the brain gets a message that it's starving, it will build fat cells. So all diets fail because that starvation message gets constantly sent to the hypothalamus of the brain. It's in the limbic system of the brain. Big doctor words, but it's in the middle of your head. And the hypothalamus talks to the pituitary gland. If you look in Shape, we've got some extract of hypothalamus and pituitary in there. And they're there to ask the brain to think differently about what's going on. So if the starvation mechanism is triggered, then the body says, I can fix this. I'm going to just build fat cells. Not a good thing. The Atkins diet is a classic example. I remember when we remember when it was really, really popular. Everybody was coming in with their keto strips and that kind of stuff. So the classic example, a guy starts at 240, does Atkins and just crushes it. He just slams it and he gets down to 200, and then he eats a piece of bread. And within moments, his body says to him, you have what's called a set point. It's what your brain thinks you should weigh. So it brought his body right back to 240. And then it said, you starved yourself. I'm going to protect you and I'm going to raise your set point to 260. So if the failure with Atkins was just 100%, that's bad, but it's not. It's 120%. You actually gain more than you can. So we use the urine analysis. There's 5 markers in there that we're fanatical about, and we'll change your program based on what that urine analysis shows.
I want to step back to Sue. Sue's given us permission to talk about her case, and we so appreciate that. And she's one of our warriors that's out there encouraging everybody else every single day, which we really appreciate. When Todd said, he was, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm glad she's not my patient, because she had a lot of challenges. It did turn out that you kind of she was sort. She
I worked with her. Yeah, I worked with her doctor distally,
and it was it was collaborative. But Sue will be the first one to say she tried every diet underneath the sun, and it was so much more than just diet. There was so many underlying health challenges, and some people question us about why people have to work with a practitioner. Well, for 4 decades, we've seen people doing all kinds of crazy
all
stuff.
Diets fail.
Yeah, all diets fail. And so we've seen people trying on their own. It's not to say that everybody doesn't, lose weight if they try. Some do. But we've seen all kinds of crazy. And it's just really important to us that people are working with a practitioner and they're being monitored, and that we are building this program to the unique bio-individual need of every patient. And what happened with Sue is very different than what happens with everybody else on this call right now. You're all so beautiful and so unique, and it's just important that you're working with your practitioner. And urine, you do have a fetish with urine. You've had a fetish with urine forever.
Really?
Yes, forever.
I don't drink it.
So that's really it.
So I want to be Michelle, before you jump in.
I'm gonna go. Wait. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing our screen.
Okay.
Okay, is that okay? And you know that we're in Q&A time, and that little picture, raise your hand if you have questions. We've got some that we're prepared,
one in particular
that we're gonna
okay. Hi everybody. Now we're
are we bigger now? We're out of the presentation.
So I love the questions that always start, and the best questions always start with, this may be a dumb question. And so this is a great question. How is it that in phase 1 nuts and rice aren't approved, but crackers made with nuts and rice are? Great question, and a very thinking person asked that question. So here's the key to this thing. There's not a lot of nuts and rice in these crackers. So part of this is, it's about satiety and pleasure. There's times you say, I just need something crunchy. I need something salty, whatever. So we chose these crackers for that reason. Now, the reason nuts aren't in there, if you take, you can look it up. If you take a cup of mixed nuts, the calories that are in that are 880 calories in 1 cup of mixed nuts.
You would know.
Yeah, I would know.
You would know, because
we had nuts in our office.
We had nuts in our office, and Todd would think, oh, I'm eating nuts, and this is a great, wonderful, healthy thing. Is that better, Michelle?
Yes, ma'am.
This is a great, wonderful, healthy thing.
About 4 cups a day.
And so he was eating so many nuts, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, you need to chill out on the nuts, guy.
You thought I was nuts?
No,
okay, I am. And then rice is an interesting entity. It's a complex carbohydrate, and it really is not that bad of a food. And in certain situations, brown rice, this would be.
We're not talking white rice. We're talking brown rice.
Or basmati would work too. So there have been patients that I realized their carb needs were greater. So I'll often use either brown rice or sweet potatoes to help them. This has to do with balancing blood sugar, so the brain has the right amount of glucose that's going in there. But again, across the board, it just has too high of a caloric value. and it kind of screws up your metabolism.
To be
When,
able to just go eating
when
nuts or eating rice in
right.
really in
So the
fast track.
crackers, we just are trying to fake your brain into being happy and having
Yeah.
pleasure. So Michelle, any other questions?
Do you want him to go with the questions that you sent us that people had sent ahead of time?
If we could just go with one more that was sent in ahead of the meeting,
Okay.
and I'll be ready with other questions as soon as you're finished with that.
Okay, so we have 3 others that were provided
Well,
to us. You have one?
two have to do with menopause and hormones and affecting your health, Tammy. So what you need to understand is I built Shape as a weight loss program for this beautiful lady next to me. And then all the miracles started happening. I saw inflammatory markers plummet, blood sugar balanced, lipids just went into a perfect state. And then I began to see changes in the endocrine system. At the end of my career, I had 17 ladies that were completely infertile. That now I've treated fertility in my practice. I did acupuncture, did a lot of herbal kind of things. There's lots of ways you can kind of support progesterone and estrogen and those kind of, and balance it out with some herbs and vitamin therapy. So I have treated it successfully, but all 17 of these women didn't come to me for fertility. Matter of fact, I don't think I knew that they have fertility problems.
That wasn't their chief complaint.
No, it wasn't their chief complaint. So then when this started, the first time it happens, you think, well, that's a fluke. Second, third, fourth. Now I'm getting up over 10. I'm thinking, I better understand what's going on. So the hypothalamus talks to the pituitary gland. And they talk things over and they send messages. And these messages are hormonal communicators. To your thyroid, those two will talk and send a message called the thyroid stimulating hormone. To the ovaries, your follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. To your adrenal glands, it sends something called ACTH. You can produce cortisol and all those kind of things. So I had to backtrack and go, how did this happen? And it was pretty exciting. I mean, you have somebody with hemorrhoids, there's a certain allure, but you have somebody that never had a child have a child. That's pretty cool. The other question here.
Well, I just want to say that, yeah, I mean, how many times have I seen out on Facebook people posting that they are menopausal and their symptoms have improved dramatically since they have started on Shape, like PCOS and
better brain
kinds of
communication,
things,
better
yeah.
brain communication.
Mhm.
The last question is, how do circadian rhythms affect the way our bodies metabolize food? Boy, that's a very technical question. So I'm going to use one particular thing, and that's cortisol. It's our stress hormone. Now, cortisol and insulin and glucose are constantly battling each other. They're always in a pissing contest. Can I say that? I just did. I say they're like the Israelis and the Palestinians. They got to live together and they can't. So they're always kind of jockeying for control in the body. And cortisol has a specific rhythm. It starts highest in the morning and it goes down throughout the day. It starts in the 20s and eventually gets to the point it's down around 1 to 4. And at about 2 in the morning, the circadian rhythm then kicks in again, and it will then start raising your cortisol, which actually will then wake you up. It should stimulate a bowel movement, and you should just kind of go through, and then we go through again. One of the problems when we have...
Wait, did you say we're supposed to have a bowel movement at 2 o'clock in the morning?
No, when you get up in the morning.
Oh, when you get up in the morning. I was going to say,
once again, Linda is not listening to me. This is a rather common occurrence in her life. So, I know. So, so let's look at. We said cortisol doesn't get along with blood sugar, and what do we talk about? Blood sugar with willpower, it drops. So you can see the danger that's going to occur here. And with the amount of stress that people are under, all of a sudden we have really high cortisol when it should be low, and many metabolic catastrophes await you when that is the case. So that's the circadian rhythm.
Now, also people that work night shifts, that causes a lot of issues for them. So you might mention it.
Well, in traditional Chinese medicine, there are 12 meridians, and each one has a 2-hour window of time that it's at its peak. The liver meridian is at its peak at 1 in the morning till 3 in the morning. So you should be asleep so your liver can regenerate and do all the things it needs to do. The liver's got, depending on the author, 500 to 800 functions. It's probably got 8,000 functions because we just haven't discovered all of them. So when you're not sleeping when you should to heal the liver, bad things are going to happen. Headaches, one-sided headaches, gas and bloating, intolerance to dairy products, all those things will kind of come into play. So, Michelle, question.
Okay, so we're going to do our best. We told everyone we would limit the call to around an hour, and we started about 5 after, so we're going to try to pack these great questions in. It's okay. So we have a question from Rachel. She says the first time she did Shape, she did fantastically, even though it tapered off near the end. She then was off the plan. You're going to hear this, you hear this question a lot, I know. She came back, she's exercising regularly. Her practitioner has added additional protein, yes, but she wants to know, it is so slow, and why is it each time you do Shape again, it seems to get slower and slower to lose weight?
Well,
we knew this question was coming.
So when you have a lot of weight to lose and you lose it, it's wonderful. And then you have that last little amount you want to get rid of, and it's very difficult because it's now the body, you got to kind of play with the system and try to understand what's going on. Are we estrogen dominant? Is there too much estrogen in the system? Are we having blood sugar imbalances? There's a hormone that fat cells produce called leptin that tell your brain I'm full. So all these things we teach our practitioners to look at. There's actually 11 of these areas that can cause this imbalance. But I will tell you, my observation is there is so much energy and so much positivity that occurs the first time you do the program. And what you do in that program, you learn how to cheat. You know, I can eat this and I didn't pay any price. Now, when you do it a second time, you start out cheating. And I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I've just seen it too many times. And the enthusiasm isn't there. The intention isn't as good as we would like it to be. You also, when you have a lot of weight to lose and you lose the big first chunk, again, the next chunk is going to be harder, and you have to kind of play with the system and try to help it.
That is our clinical observation, and we've also seen out on Facebook where people have said, I really buckled down and it worked for me again. So again, we don't mean to hurt feelings.
Right. Here's the key when you do it a second, third, fourth time. Do not set a weight goal. It'll mess with your head. It'll just screw you up. I'm going to do Shape by the book for 3 weeks. I'm going to do it for 30 days. I'm going to do it for 40 days. Whatever you want to do it, just do that amount. No matter where you end up,
commit. It's
good. Just do it, because if you're shooting for a goal and you don't reach it, that's going to send the wrong message to your brain, and we're going to have all kinds of issues. I should do a whole thing on brain. I love the brain. So, Next question.
Yes. Rebecca says, Dr. Todd just talked about a set point. Does everyone have a set point, and how can you change it? I'm asking because I'm on maintenance and have gained a few pounds and cannot take them back off. I'm even taking the drops 3 times a day. Does this have to do with my body's own set point?
Well, one of the reasons we have a 3-phased approach, we have the first phase is basically a cleanse. That's when you're doing Shape very aggressively. The second phase that everybody kind of, I'm okay, I'll do it.
I don't always follow phase 2.
Phase 2 is where you lock down a set point. We all have a set point. There was a book called The Setpoint Diet, Remington, Parent, and Fisher. It came out in the early 80s. There were 2 doctors and a PhD from Utah that did this program. And so that's the first time I learned about set point. It is what your brain thinks you should weigh. So you lock your set point in phase 2. It has to be done perfectly. Now, there's a tendency to gain a couple of pounds. I always use 3 as the number with my patients. If you gain 3 pounds or more, do something, whether you do an intermittent fasting. And we probably need to do a talk to the Shape family on intermittent fasting, because it's Linda went down that road.
We're going to be rolling out a whole rebrand in the next few weeks, and we're going to.
You told me I wasn't supposed to talk about that.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I mean, we're not talking about everything that we're doing in the rebrand, but we will be teaching our practitioners, and once we get this all out to our practitioners, then, if you want to come back and do a little something here, we can do that. But, our first responsibility is to get it out to our practitioners, because they're the ones that are working one-on-one with you, and they'll help you directly.
Absolutely. Next question.
Did you answer the question? Did you finish answering?
I think I did.
About the set point?
Oh, set point. Yeah. So everyone has one, and the key, it involves much activity, proper diet, exercise. All these things will factor into a set point.
So everybody probably does have a set point.
Well, no, everybody has a set point.
You know
Absolutely.
what I want to say, that the people that really follow the program as it's intended, do phase 1, get to your health or weight goal, go into phase 2, slowly start adding things back in and see how your body responds. If you ate a banana and you gained 4 pounds overnight, banana is not your friend. It didn't like that kind of fruit sugar. So you might want to be cautious with that. So when you're adding foods back in, pay real close attention to what is that inflammatory reaction. If you gained weight, if you got congested, if you got a headache, if you got gas and bloaty, that food might not be your best. If you take it really slow as you're starting to add things back in phase 2 and into phase 3, you'll be able to build that food plan, that lifestyle that works for you, that's going to help you maintain that weight. We all have found that there are certain things that we just simply cannot eat because it causes issues for us. For me, it's wine. It just is. I really don't drink much wine, and when I do, I choose carefully when I want to have wine, because it's an instant 2 to 3 pounds for me. They have a glass of wine, 2 to 3 pounds. So, I choose whether I want to drink wine or not.
I'll drink it if you don't.
Yeah, right. You don't gain weight from it.
So that book, it came to me. It's How to Lower Your Fat Thermostat by Remington, Parent, and Fisher.
Can you repeat that one more time for everyone?
The book is called How to Lower Your Fat Thermostat.
Oh, is it even available?
No, it's out of print.
I think it's out
by
of
Remington,
print.
Parent, and Fisher. But it's still true. So
yeah,
it's all good.
The next question.
Okay, good.
Go ahead.
Okay. The next question is, what does it mean that leukocytes are in my urine analysis almost every time? Even with antibiotics, the infection doesn't stay away.
Yeah, great question. So leukocytes are white blood cells, and there's different types of white blood cells. There's neutrophils, there's lymphocytes, there's basophils. I mean, all these things. And you can, when doctors run what's called a CBC, a complete blood count, they're with differential, they're measuring the different types of white blood cells. Look, we're all fighting infections all the time. And you'll see this more common in females, and you'll see it definitely more common in the perimenopausal, menopausal female, because the vaginal wall is thinning and it's drier, and it's a place that bacteria sets up. The key with this is if you have overt symptoms of an infection, it must be addressed. If you have no symptoms whatsoever, ignore it. It just means your body's fighting some infection, and that's what your body's supposed to do. That's, we're all measuring, do we have COVID? Do we have all this kind of stuff? Well, it hits us, we attack it, we destroy it. That's how our immune system works. Then the virus is going to change. It's going to replicate itself. It's going to change itself. That's why viruses are almost impossible to eliminate, simply because they're constantly changing their RNA, which is something called messenger RNA. And I'm not going to get into the details of that, but medicine tries to predict which virus is going to come through, but they're rarely accurate. So
and again,
keep your immune system strong and you'll beat it away.
Leukocytes in the urine, menopausal women, there's a high chance that there's going to be leukocytes in the urine simply because of vaginal wall thinning. If they're sexually active, it's pretty much a given that going to be some leukocytes in that menopausal phase.
Without symptoms, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. We have about 8 to 10 more questions. So you have to tell me when you're ready to cut off. But the next question is, what happens when you don't have a thyroid? And I think they're asking from the perspective of, in general, what does it do to your body, and then on the plan. And that's from Lisa.
Yeah. So, thyroid will be, Lisa. So thyroid will be removed for a number of different reasons. Usually it's a cancerous thyroid. So it is a gland that produces a particular chemical called thyroxine. And the brain sends out a message called thyroid stimulating hormone. That message is going to come whether your thyroid's there or not. So medicine can actually give you thyroxine. So even if you don't have a thyroid, you can live a healthy life. Shape is going to enhance that because there's a lot of activity that occurs, especially in the liver, when we're talking about converting T4 to T3. T4 is very plentiful and it converts to T3, which is more metabolically stimulating. It gives hair quality, suppleness to your skin that helps you lose weight. So many women that, and I've only seen this in women, I rarely see it in men, they get put on Synthroid, which is synthetic thyroid. And that's fine. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. And their thyroid stimulating hormone comes back in a perfect range, and yet all their symptoms are the same. They still fatigue, they still have dry skin, they have brain fog, fibromyalgia, all the aches and pains, that kind of stuff. So what I will do with those patients is I'll typically give them something to help their liver convert T4 to T3, or I'll talk to their endocrinologist and see if they'll give a drug called Cytomel, which is T3. So there's lots of different ways to attack this thing, but you can live a healthy life without a thyroid.
The next question, yes, it's from Lisa or Lila, I'm sorry. She just says, your lotion is good, but it's just not good, not enough for me. My skin flakes. I use it in my reflexology practice and it does not provide a good slip. Baby oil is petroleum based. What else can I use?
Yeah.
Let me just add, first of all, I would really highly recommend skin brushing. It really brings the health and vitality back to the skin. And I've had so many people say the lotion didn't work. And when they started skin brushing, it made all the world of difference. We are aware that some people have an attitude about mineral oil, especially like baby oil, because it's got some fragrance in it. So we get that.
So let me talk about skin a little bit. Skin problems are never a problem with the skin. Something else is wrong in the body. So if you're having a problem with your skin, dry, acne, whatever, something is causing that. And we try to train our practitioners to look and understand what's going on. One of the things I always recommend, especially with the menopausal, perimenopausal females, is they start the program on fish oil or medium chain triglycerides, which is coconut oil. And it can be very, very beneficial because dry skin is a sign you need more oil. And you take it.
For sure. Be discussing this with your practitioner. Yeah, they I mean, if they know from the get-go that you've got issues with your skin right out of the gate, they should be adding some extra stuff to your program so that you've got that extra healthy fat support.
I'll often ask my patients, what do you think is the most important supplement? And they'll say, well, you've been reading a lot about fish oil. And then another one say, I read a lot about vitamin D. And, well, we need minerals. And I say, here's the answer. The most important supplement is the one you're missing. So we can help our patients by simply looking at things that way. Look for what's missing, and also look for what's there and shouldn't be there. Heavy metal toxicity, all these different kind of things.
Skin brushing, try skin brushing. I promise you, it will make a world of difference.
It's like a giant toothbrush for your skin, right?
Yeah.
Next question.
I just want to remind everybody the wealth of knowledge that is on the Shape Reclaimed website under Patient Education tab. And there's a specific article about the skin brushing on there if you're not familiar with what Linda is talking about. So the next question is, can you address why having large ketones on a urinalysis is a negative for the SHAPE program or reason to adjust versus being in a state of high ketosis to lose weight?
Perfect question.
So ketones in your urine are a sign your body's breaking down fat for energy. This is a good thing. But there comes a point when it's too much. So Atkins wanted you in large ketosis. So we believe trace, small, moderate are very acceptable and actually a very good thing. Large ketosis, we have found, is a starvation marker. And again, it's going to send a message to your brain, help me. And your brain's going to say, I'll build fat cells. So it just
long term, it's not good.
You can't stay on an Atkins diet forever. It's not a healthy thing to do. I've used Atkins with my diabetic patients when that was the popular diet, but I monitored them very carefully and make sure I was supporting things. And I found in a big hurry, large ketosis, the patients that constantly stayed in large ketosis when they came off Atkins diet, the weight came back probably 10 times faster than people that weren't in that state.
Yeah.
So
hopefully that helps.
Yes.
It's a starvation marker.
Okay. And the next question is, on maintenance, I try to follow the 80-20 rule, eating SHAPE, fast track 5 days and being a little more relaxed 2 days without going crazy. I still gain weight, and the only way I can maintain is to follow fast track all of the time. Is this normal? And that's from Rebecca.
It's not normal. There's something metabolically going on in your body that's not right, and you have to get your practitioner to kind of dig in. And is it thyroid? Is it insulin? Is it hormones? There's all these different things.
Is it a sensitivity to a food that you're adding back in that it could be a healthy food that you've added back in, but your body is rejecting it.
And one of the things that I began doing towards the end of my career was this intermittent fasting. And it just is a Tammy who is on here. I worked with her, 30 years, Tammy. What do you think? She was kind of struggling, and we did intermittent fasting with her, and she is stunning. The picture we saw of her. So there's some things that can be done, but again, your practitioner is going to have to guide you in that and try to find out what's going on. It is a signal that something is not right in the system, and it's a matter of trying to figure out what's going on. Now, let me explain one other thing. Medicine is all about what's wrong, and I'm not against that. You got cancer, you got diabetes, you want that medical doctor in your camp. Our philosophy is asking what's not right. So I believe you have to be 2/3 sick before medicine sees anything wrong. So I personally trained myself, and of course now I'm training SHAPE practitioners to step away from that medical model that we were all trained in. What's wrong? Because what happens, you're female, you got brain fog, you're gaining weight, you got indigestion, you've been diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. You say, doctor, what does that mean? That means your bowels are irritable. Well, thank you. That explains everything. I mean, it's a pathetic diagnosis. So, and all the tests come back textbook midline normal. So they say, well, honey, perhaps Prozac is what you need. So go on 20 milligrams of Prozac, and now you gain 20% of your weight. If you start at 100 pounds, you're going to be 120 within 6 months on Prozac because you gain weight on Prozac, but you just don't care, which is one of the problems I have with those kind of drugs.
It just is. I know it's frustrating. We know it's frustrating. It's just really so important to really try to pay close attention. Keep track of what you're eating and how your body responds, because I guarantee you there is something that you are eating that is causing this negative reaction. SHAPE, we say SHAPE is a lifestyle. You should be able to eat mostly clean and have splurges on occasion without paying such severe consequences for it. And like I said, sometimes it's all about choices, and you're going to have to choose if you're willing to do it or not. Is it going to cause a negative reaction for you? So hopefully your practitioner can really try to help you figure this out.
Last question, because our time is running out.
And I apologize, we have some people we're not going to get to, but there's a question that's been asked by a couple. They've noticed on the support group and themselves that they're told that their cortisol levels are extremely low. but it doesn't seem like their practitioners doing things out of the ordinary from the SHAPE program to address it. They wanted to know if you had any suggestions or things that they should look into or talk to their practitioner about.
Well, we actually address cortisol in the SHAPE formula. I've got 3 remedies in there. Actually, with the Bach remedies, there's 6 remedies that deal specifically with cortisol. So cortisol is a hormone produced, it's a steroid hormone produced mainly by your adrenal glands to help you cope with stress. So if you've got a cortisol issue, you're going to have a blood sugar issue. They just go hand in hand. That's always the case. If you have a thyroid problem, you're going to have an adrenal problem. You can have an adrenal problem without a thyroid problem, but you cannot have a thyroid problem without an adrenal problem. So, and you can measure these levels. And again, one of the problems with measuring cortisol is it depends on what time of day you measure it. If you measure it at 8 in the morning, it should be in the 20s. But if you measure it at 6 at night, it's going to be down around 7, 8, or 9. That's that circadian rhythm we talked about. So what you want to do when you're measuring cortisol is do 4 different tests, a saliva test. They take 4 different times in the day. A lot of practitioners do this test. It's called an ASI, an Adrenal Stress Index, and you can determine exactly what's going on and what's happening. It also measures DHEA, progesterone, well, 17-hydroxyprogesterone, but measures an immune marker. So it's a great test, but we actually address cortisol in the SHAPE. I mean, it's already being done.
So it is already being done, but that doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have a higher dysfunction.
Yeah.
And that there needs to be some additional support. And, hopefully the practitioner is going to dig deeper, not to negate your practitioner. They're probably a wonderful, awesome practitioner, but don't ever hesitate to ask them to reach out to Dr. Todd. And he's here for, he works with practitioners day in and day out. And maybe they can talk to Dr. Todd about your situation, and he might have some recommendations that the practitioner could maybe add to your program. We can't tell you directly. It's a HIPAA thing. We can't advise you because you're not our patient,
not
but we
patient.
can
Advisor.
talk to your practitioner.
So the test, I was asked, would you repeat the test? It's called an ASI, Adrenal Stress Index. And it measures, it's a salivary test, it's a saliva test, and is much more accurate than a blood test because no hospital is going to run 4 blood tests on you 4 different times in a day. Insurance won't pay for it. Okay. So the salivary tests are better.
Thanks,
Remember, it's about passion, it's about integrity, and it's about the journey. Destinations suck for me. I love the journey. I hope you do too. Thanks for joining us.
Have a good evening, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.